Israel is a client state. I've also learned, very unfortunately, having spent my entire career trying to repudiate the lessons of the Iraq War, of Syria, and of Libya, of an overwhelming propaganda effort on both sides, both parties, the mainstream media, but still, unfortunately, very alive and well, it seems, in the Republic.
Je vais t'aider, fais-moi confiance.
Ottoman, repeat. No, but you understand. Yes, he does. That's better, yeah, that's better. Okay. It's the same plan.
Véhicule ennemi.
Did you find a backpack? I still need one here. And there's a team here. They're going to the buy station now.
J'essuie des tirs.
Oh, and I got sniped. See? I saw him. Oh, he's dead. Where is this one?
Tiens, bon, je suis là.
He running inside.
Ultra 1, l'activité augmente dans la zone. Ouvrez l'œil.
Véhicule repéré.
J'ai trouvé un bateau. Un ennemi.
I've only seen one player so far. I saw them running out. All three of them are inside.
C'est pas encore fini pour toi.
No problem, myself.
Enquête, à couvert.
Ultra 1, attention.
Tiens, bon,
Un
je suis là.
opérateur a demandé des soins dans votre zone.
Dude, they're coming. Oh, come behind me. Stand behind me so you can shoot. Push the wrong button. Oh, wow. Wow. Alright. good evening. I'm sure tomorrow. Well, have a good night now.
Republican Party and in the White House, cheering on regime change, demands of unconditional surrender made to the Iranians just this morning, the endorsement of a Kurdish civil war campaign. It really does feel as if things are accelerating, even with the perspectives in modern history of literally 5, 10, even 15 years ago, to learn that these are exactly the moves that we should not be making. And so I'm really terrified right now to be saying that our sovereignty itself remains in question at the behest here of Israel, our very own government, which seems complicit and is, of course, involved in these very strikes. And then watching the way that this is all going, I do not see a single way that this will make the life of any individual American better.
You probably find a lot of bags of chips in your pantry during spring cleaning this year. Most will have nutrition labels that read like science projects, dozens of weird ingredients you can't pronounce and shouldn't be eating, but not masa chips. Masa chips, we know this by heart, have just 3 ingredients, all of them simple and straightforward. They're made from organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. No weird chemical from a plant in New Jersey, no seed oils, just real food the way you're supposed to eat it. Is it healthy? Yeah, of course it is, but it's also great to eat. There's a reason Sprouts Farmers Market and Wegmans pick them up nationwide. They're the best. Snacking on masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. You can eat a whole bag, not that we'd know, and feel light and energetic. You don't feel sluggish and brain dead like you would with other chips. Our favorite flavor is lime, but they're all awesome. Ready to give masa a try? Visit masachips.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker for 25% off your first order, or you can link in the video description or scan the QR code to claim this offer on these awesome chips. I unfortunately agree with that, and you could feel it in the days leading up to it. I saw Trump 3 times in the month before, and it was obvious to me that he didn't want to do it. It was, I think, obvious in every TV appearance that he made. He was
Early Saturday morning, America and Israel launched a surprise war against Iran. I call it a surprise war because here's what one of the mediators said after negotiations on Friday.
I am confident, and in my assessment of the way the talks are going, the peace deal is within our reach.
The peace deal is within our reach. But it turns out the bomb shit button was much closer. The devastating effects of a regional war have made everyone very nervous, and one person very happy.
This enables us to do what I have long hoped to do for 40 years.
What? I've had 4 decades of regime change blue balls. But of course, the announcement that our nation is at war is the most solemn moment of any president's tenure, and an opportunity to reassure an anxious nation, to reaffirm the righteousness of the cause.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
Yeah, I'm sorry, can I just jump in here real quick? This is how we're doing this? 2 a.m., Mar-a-Lago basement? No lighting? You don't even have one of those influencer halo things? You f***ing go down in the basement, and this is what we're wearing? Blazer, no tie, shirt unbuttoned? looking more like the father of the bride settling up with the caterer? Is that what we're doing? And not to nitpick, obviously, but baseball hat? We're going with a baseball hat? For a war of choice? Oh, I'm going to go down and make my war announcement. Don't
Mi trabajo es fácil porque uso ClickUp. Así es como hago un seguimiento de todas mis tareas. Empiezo volcando todo lo que tengo.
6 canceled games, 7 delayed, a 34% stock value freefall, a shift from iconic gaming franchises to player-facing AI slop. This is Josh from the Infographics Show, and we're explaining how Ubisoft destroyed itself. What's unique about Ubisoft is that it was neither a century-old gaming company like Nintendo, nor a corporate venture from an ex-Apple executive like EA. In its truest sense, Ubisoft was a family business founded in the late 1980s by the Guillemot family from Saint-Mandé, France. 5 brothers, Christian, Claude, Gerard, Michel, and Yves, wanted to leave behind the family's agriculture support business. They wanted to diversify into computer technology, which in 1986, only the most forward-thinking folks realized wasn't going to be just some passing fad. With seed money from their mother, the brothers started developing games. For a time, the company operated out of a fancy manor in Brittany, a move to attract top talent, and no one expected what would come next. After 9 years of building their brand and collecting talent, they had a huge hit with the armless gaming hero Rayman in 1995. They had another boon thanks to a licensing deal with prolific paperback thriller author Tom Clancy. That gave them the rights to adapt his special ops fiction into hit games, like Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, and Rainbow Six. Ubisoft played a key role in shaping first-person shooters, open worlds, and stealth games, the genres that define modern gaming today. The 2000s and 2010s were the decades where Ubisoft truly looked invincible, publishing some of their most beloved and commercially successful entries in their Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed, and Far Cry franchises. They also began acquiring smaller dev studios like Auliant, creators of a popular horse-rearing game with over 2 million active monthly users. Even Rayman, the plucky little character who started it all, was still getting beloved new titles. Even as late as 2013, they were introducing entirely new iconic gaming staples like Watch Dogs into the mix. So what could possibly go wrong? It turns out, basically everything. Watch Dogs didn't actually turn out to be the next Far Cry or Assassin's Creed. The 2012 E3 sizzle reel made Watch Dogs feel like a game-changing moment for players, showcasing Ubisoft's strengths on a grand scale. It was a living, breathing environment where stealth and hacking combined to give players total control over the world around them. It almost seemed too good to be true, and it was. When the next demo dropped at E3 in 2013, attendants and gaming journalists were confused at why the game looked so terrible. Players realized they'd been misled, and the fallout began almost immediately. Was this the first time a company had exaggerated a product in a demo? Of course not. But in hindsight, it feels like a dark omen, hinting at Ubisoft's slow shift away from being a consumer-first developer. At the time, it seemed like the backlash scared Ubisoft back into acting right. The CEO, Yves Guillemot, one of the 5 original brothers, made a public apology. He claimed that it would fundamentally change how the company approached game advertising in the future, striving for more clarity and honesty in presentation. But gamers would soon see that apologies didn't stop the next wave of mistakes. Hyped as the next big thing, The Division failed to deliver. It felt like a clone of 2014's Destiny, and it was riddled with microtransactions, despite Ubisoft's promise to the contrary. Something was changing at Ubisoft, and players would soon pay the price. The microtransaction push was met with a huge backlash, but unlike the Watch Dogs E3 incident, Ubisoft didn't even pretend that they were sorry or that they wouldn't do it again. Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Odyssey both featured the same reviled pay-to-win features. Fans speculated that the vanilla gameplay had been made deliberately irritating, funneling frustration straight into the microtransaction pipeline. All of the flaws in Ubisoft's conduct seemed to relate back to 2 main factors: unchecked greed and a habit of underestimating their audience. Leaks revealed that Assassin's Creed Origins almost had a female-only protagonist. Developers pushed for it, but executives insisted on a male lead, convinced a female lead game wouldn't sell. But if that seems bad, it was only the beginning. 2015 was really when things started to go wrong for Ubisoft. Corporate battles were looming and the family's control was being tested like never before. The company suddenly found itself fighting corporate battles while trying to keep the game development afloat. What had once made Ubisoft unique, a true family business run by the 5 Guillemot brothers, with even some subsidiaries like Alliant passed down to the next generation, now made it a target. In the cutthroat world of media, family-run studios often look like prime IP morsels for larger conglomerates. Such was the case when Vivendi, a much larger French media company, tried to mount a hostile takeover of Ubisoft and its assets. The Guillemots now faced the possibility of losing the company that they had built from the ground up. It sparked a legal battle that would drag on for 3 brutal years while the gaming landscape continued to evolve around them. Given that French law dictates that when you own 30% of a company's stock, you need to make an offer to buy the entire company, it naturally has the brothers Guillemot sweating when Vivendi started aggressively acquiring Ubisoft shares. By October 2015, they had a 10.4% stake, meaning slightly over a tenth of the company belonged to Vivendi. The Guillemots knew that the company wasn't messing around because they had previously spent 500 million euros buying up shares in the Guillemot-founded mobile game company Gameloft, and was clearly angling to do the same with Ubisoft. The Guillemots managed to hold out, but the real fight was only just beginning. By December 2016, Vivendi owned 25.15% of the Ubisoft shares, putting them less than 5 percentage points away from putting Ubisoft into a legal chokehold. But while Yves Guillemot was clearly losing his touch as a game developer, he was at least still an undeniably shrewd businessman. He called in every favor he could within the business community to buy up Ubisoft shares before Vivendi could, diluting their control and preventing the takeover. But this didn't mean that Ubisoft was completely safe from outside influence. The real challenges were only beginning.
Tu correo electrónico es tu carta de presentación. Cuídala. Con el correo electrónico de GoDaddy puedes tener un email profesional a juego con tu dominio. Así, transmites confianza.
Despite the larger chaos of the attempted takeover, Ubisoft and its subsidiaries were still chugging along by 2018. Alliant, under Chris Guillemot, began developing the Tom Clancy Elite Squad mobile game. And on March 20th, as Vivendi began divesting its shares, Ubisoft revealed a major new investor, Tencent, a Chinese tech giant that has since become the world's largest video game company. Suffice to say, they have a lot of weight to throw around. Between Tencent and all the other groups that had bought up shares to prevent the Vivendi takeover, Ubisoft was left in the frustrating position of having more mouths to feed. And with the burgeoning crypto trend, they picked up the absolute worst way to do it: blockchain gaming. After years of growing frustrations around microtransactions and paywalls in video games, they decided once again to add even more new ways to do it. And to that end, they created Ubisoft Quartz, an online marketplace for blockchain-based game cosmetics. People could buy up new skins and outfits for their video game characters with cryptocurrency. It promised digital ownership. But between volatile crypto and gamers simply wanting great titles, it wasn't the Hail Mary Ubisoft imagined. But Ubisoft wasn't going to let something as minor as all of their customers hating it stop them from completely jumping on the bandwagon. They released entirely blockchain-based games like Captain Laserhawk, the game and Champions Tactics. They then seemed to double and then triple down on NFTs being the future of gaming, even as everyone emphatically told them that they didn't want them. As Ubisoft chased trends, they were also grappling with a major PR crisis behind the scenes, one all too familiar in the gaming industry. They were faced with a huge number of cases of sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior among employees. In summer of 2020, the Me Too movement sparked a wave of revelations where people exposed predatory behavior that had been hidden in the upper echelons of different industries, and Ubisoft was very much one of those companies. And it would be one thing if it was just a matter of ignorance, but it wasn't. The French newspaper Libération exposed decades of indecent conduct at Ubisoft, and HR had actively buried these files, protecting the company while letting misconduct continue. And things would quickly spiral out of control. Alliant released a trailer for Tom Clancy's Elite Squad mobile game, revealing that the game's terrorist villains, Umbra, had the exact same logo as a real-life racial justice group. High-profile employees were forced to resign, and Yves Guillemot's poor handling led to waves of staff quitting in protest. In 2021, in a move that had both gamers and investors reaching for the panic button, Ubisoft announced that they would be reducing their focus on AAA games. It was a signal that the company was abandoning its traditional identity, favoring mobile and live service models. new mobile apps, a mobile game development deal with Netflix, and mobile versions of some of their most beloved games like Assassin's Creed and Rainbow Six only seem to further confirm this. And of course, the worst was still yet to come for Ubisoft. In 2023, Ubisoft's failed gambles and bad investments led to the emergence of a controversial cost reduction plan that had people both inside and outside of the company furious. Yves Guillemot sent out the kind of memo to employees that would have you updating your LinkedIn profile, saying he wanted, quote, each of you to be especially careful and strategic with your spending and initiatives to ensure we're being as efficient and lean as possible. Because this is a French company, not an American one, this led to extensive worker strikes and demands for better conditions and higher pay, which didn't exactly gel with the cost reduction plan. So they fired 124 employees from their VFX and IT teams in November of that year. And this wouldn't be the last employee call at Ubisoft as things got worse and worse. By the time 2024 rolled around, Ubisoft was on the ropes and things weren't going to start getting better this time. Executives on the team courted scandal by saying players should get comfortable not owning games, which didn't exactly leave gamers thrilled. But maybe that statement wasn't even a reference to the increasing emphasis on live service models. Maybe they meant that gamers won't be able to own games if they never come out, or they're too fundamentally broken or buggy for anyone to want to own them. But either one of those would have been way too self-aware for Ubisoft at this point. After 11 grueling years in development, Ubisoft finally released Skull and Bones, a private epic with a $100 million plus budget and partial funding from Singapore, promoted as the industry's first quadruple A game. In the end, it was unsurprisingly an open-world live service game that people roundly considered an over-baked mess. And this would be prophetic. In addition to the disappointment of Skull and Bones, they also experienced underperforming titles with Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, X-Defiant, and Star Wars Outlaws. This led them to delay the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows by 4 months. Consumer confidence in Ubisoft was eroding fast. Over the course of 2024, we saw the closure of some of their live service games like X-Defiant, more layoffs, more worker strikes, and the closure of 2 of their development studios, Ubisoft San Francisco and Ubisoft Osaka. By September, the studio's disastrous financial performance had Tencent and the Guillemots considering drastic measures, even pushing the family out and selling Ubisoft to private equity. Consumers following the news felt like they were watching the imminent death of Ubisoft as they knew it in real time. But in reality, it would continue to limp on, and the greatest humiliations were still yet to come. In 2025, they were plagued by further cuts to employee positions and began selling off their intellectual property to other studios, such as Grow Home and Cold Fear. There was also the closure of another one of their studios, Ubisoft Leamington. In November 2025, they lost a lot of confidence after delaying their half-year financial report and stopping people from selling off their shares during that time, quote, to limit unnecessary speculation and market volatility during this short delay. When they did eventually release the report, they also announced that they'd reduced their workforce to just over 17,000 by the end of September 2025, down from almost 20,300 in 2022. And then came the absolute horrors of 2026. Game Hazards called it the 10.6 billion euro wipeout. That is a billion with a B. It was January 22nd, 2026 when trading opened and the value of Ubisoft stock fell 34.4%, making it lose more money than the entire market cap of CD Projekt Red. What set the chain of events in motion was Yves Guillemot's report, Major Organizational, Operational, and Portfolio Reset. It spelled out Ubisoft's harsh reality: cut anything that wouldn't make money fast and keep the company afloat at all costs. It's the kind of report you would only make if you were in trouble. The result of this new direction meant 6 canceled games, a remake of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, 3 unannounced new IPs, an unannounced mobile game, and 1 more unannounced project. It also led to the delays of 7 other games, including a remake of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, in addition to closures of Ubisoft Stockholm and Ubisoft Halifax, and of course a bunch of layoffs at Massive Entertainment, Ubisoft Abu Dhabi, and Red Links in Helsinki. This was the clearest sign yet that Ubisoft's golden era was over. And of course, it wouldn't be a modern corporate disaster without AI rearing its ugly head. Ubisoft has invested substantial time and money into AI-powered NPCs for their games and seems to be exploring other ways to implement the tech. Yves Guillemot himself describes it as, quote, as big a revolution for our industry as the shift to 3D. Is Ubisoft utterly collapsed right now? Not yet, but the company is in a nosedive and nothing seems poised to stop it. Now check out the indestructible phone that destroyed its own company, or watch this instead.
Appel à tous les traders. Vous voulez participer à la compétition pour gagner des milliers de dollars sans rien risquer? Participez aux compétitions XM en démo. Tradez avec du cash virtuel pour gagner de vrais prix cash retirables. Les compétitions XM en démo sont ouvertes à tous les traders. Que vous soyez un débutant et que vous ayez besoin d'idées pour trader, ou que vous ayez de l'expérience et que vous vouliez tester vos stratégies. Et ce qu'il y a de mieux, la participation est totalement gratuite. Participez aux compétitions XM en démo. Vous n'avez rien à perdre et des prix cash à gagner.
at what? Is that two pilotes in the lobby? Which are two?
Bienvenue à Almatra. Explorez, récupérez des renseignements excitants pour accéder à de nouvelles missions. Attention, les combats s'annoncent intenses.
Ennemi en mouvement.
Ultra 1, la menace ennemie est modérée près de votre position. Ultra 1, attention, drone lumineux. Ultra 1, l'activité augmente dans la zone. Ouvrez l'œil. Ultra 1, votre escouade est divisée. Je vous suggère de vous regrouper. Ultra 1, la menace ennemie semble faible dans votre zone. Ultra 1, utilisateur, vous essuyez des tirs.
إذا تابعت الإعلام الإسرائيلي بعمق وما يقوله رجال الدين اليهود المتطرفين وحتى سياسيهم والمسيحيين الإنجيليين، ستكتشف أنهم ينتظرون تحقق نبوءة على أحر من الجمر، وهذا الانتظار دام لمئات السنين. تسمى نبوءة إشعياء، حيث تتنبأ بصعود دولة إسرائيل